mentioned the Communist Party of, it's on the poster here in New York City.
Thank you.
I mean, you've got boomer cranks. They've been protesting every day. Cranky commies, Antifa people. I mean, what they're saying is true. A lot of the people with these sympathies are going to be at these events. I'm sure there'll be some peaceful protesters there. I hope there's no violence. But given what we've seen in cities around America, it is highly likely we're going to see violent elements.
What you're about to hear is one of those rare on-air moments where truth actually breaks through the CNN filter. Scott Jennings didn't just make a point. He made the entire panel squirm by exposing the uncomfortable reality behind the so-called No Kings protest. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, imagine this, a movement that claims to be about democracy, sponsored by the Communist Party USA. That's not resistance, that's irony on steroids. Jennings lays it bare right there on CNN. While the hosts nod along pretending not to notice, he's calmly describing their own base. The same radical activists who flood the streets screaming about tyranny while carrying signs printed by the very ideology they claim to oppose. This is what happens when political theater replaces principle. Democrats built this protest as a symbol of defiance, but what they really built was a mirror, one showing exactly how far their so-called grassroots movement has drifted from American reality. Jennings didn't shout, didn't spin. He simply told the truth. And that's what rattled them most.
I mean, if Democrats want to embrace having the Communist Party here in New York City sponsor this rally, be my guest, respectfully, and I hear what you're saying, but where is the energy in the Democratic Party? You see energy around protecting illegal populations. You see it every day. Energy around criminals, violent criminals. I mean, Democratic officials all over this country have worked very hard to let violent criminals out on the streets. Where is the lie in what is being said by Caroline Leavitt? This is where the energy is on the left.
The energy,
violent, illegal aliens, violent criminals. That's the energy. That's what you see.
The energy is behind protecting people's rights. It's behind not having citizens citizens, Americans.
What about illegal aliens being rounded up by ICE?
Many of the Democratic Party saying that let all illegal people or criminals run free. That is not what the Democratic Party is saying.
Those are the policies. Those are your.
No, they are not.
I mean, you have prosecutors and judges all over this country that have let violent criminal after violent criminal out on the streets, and then what do? They commit other violent crimes in city after city after city.
Why demonize them?
Because I think it's a legitimate political debate about what they're protesting for.
I mean, look.
It is perfectly legitimate political debate for Republicans to say, what exactly are they protesting? They are mad that Donald Trump is enforcing federal immigration law. They are mad that he is lawfully exercising the powers of the presidency. And they are fighting for policies that Republicans fundamentally believe are bad
I do think they
demonizing them. Calling them pro-Hamas is demonization.
Well, there will be some of those elements.
I think absolutely. So pro-Hamas is not demonization?
I'm saying that
they're flying their colors, Ashley.
No,
how are we supposed to ignore the fact that in New York City on a routine basis they're flying their flags?
Here's a pro tip. When they start saying people are pro-Hamas, when they start saying people are defund the police.
You know, what really gets under their skin is when someone reminds them where their movement's energy actually comes from the far-left fringe that now defines the Democratic Party. We're talking about the activists who call law enforcement oppressive, who march with socialist slogans, and who chant about resistance while waving the flags of causes that openly oppose American interests. The so-called No Kings protest isn't about protecting democracy, it's about dismantling it. You can see it in black and white on their own flyers. Communist Party USA, the Democratic Socialists of America. The sponsors aren't grassroots. They're ideological machines. These aren't peaceful reformers. They're professional agitators hiding behind moral slogans. Scott Jennings struck a nerve because he said the quiet part out loud. He exposed what Democrats hate to admit, that their modern political machine rewards chaos, excuses crime, and sympathizes with anyone who positions themselves against traditional American institutions. And when that mirror gets held up, they don't like what they see. That's why they panic, pivot, and accuse anyone who notices of being divisive. But as Jennings proved, truth isn't divisive, it's just inconvenient. And that's where Greg Gutfeld stepped in, taking the conversation to a whole new level after Jessica Tarlov's attempt to defend the indefensible fell flat live on air.
Mass hysteria around Trump. They have to preserve it because
It's all they've invested into. It says something that no kings is happening while Trump is brokering peace around the world. He's done like, I don't know, 7, 8 peace deals. It shows that doesn't matter. It's, it's a full-blown emotional vendetta has taken over their lives. Doesn't matter what he does. So how is this possible? How can you have good things happening around the world and people participating in mass hysteria? Because it's easy and it's fun. Anger requires no thought, no labor, no risk. Remember how Biden played the rage card whenever he never did anything else? Remember the rioting and looting after George Floyd? It was a replacement for thoughtful action, and the media decided to redefine it as a struggle. That whenever, anybody did something violent, it had something to do with some kind of struggle. Having the No Kings event after Trump, figures out Middle East peace. It's like holding a wedding after the couple broke off the engagement the night before. We're still going to go through with the ceremony anyway.
We paid for the food.
We paid for the food. We already made the flyers. But the media indulges this idea that passion equals effort, and they reward people for their feelings and not what they're actually doing. So it's a perfect example again of an imaginary solution for an imaginary problem. The trans bathrooms, the climate models, white supremacy in the military. These were all imaginary problems that then called for an imaginary solution. The problem is the trans solution and a lot of these protest solutions, they're not harmless. Like you could have surgical or psychological division in any of those. If it's just some mindless little thing where you're just standing out in front of Fox yelling like those little old ladies do. By the way, I think you can't spell no kings without no kin. A lot of these people just don't have family.
When you strip away the slogans and hashtags, the left's outrage isn't really about policy. It's about emotion. It's theater for people who can't process the fact that Donald Trump keeps racking up wins while they keep shouting at the sky. While he's brokering peace deals and rebuilding American leverage, they're parading in the streets pretending to fight imaginary tyrants. Greg Gutfeld nailed it. These protests aren't movements. They're meltdowns dressed as activism. They scream about fascism while ignoring the real chaos their own side fuels. Rising crime, an overwhelmed border, and radical rallies that glorify division instead of unity. It's outrage without courage, rebellion without consequence. Meanwhile, Trump's approach is the opposite. He leads through strength, not hysteria. He delivers results where others deliver speeches. The left could have celebrated the peace and prosperity that came from that, but instead, they chose rage, because chaos is easier to sell than progress. So what do you think? Are Democrats finally showing the world just how closely their movement has tied itself to anti-American radicalism? Or is this just another act in a never-ending performance? Let me know your thoughts below. World Insight Hub, where facts speak louder than spin. Thanks for tuning in.